Hello children, how are you all? I hope everyone are fine. I'm Mrs. Grace Vaila taking English Literature for class 5. So before we start a new lesson in this video, let me show you a picture. What do you see here? A blind man crossing the road and a lady accompanied him, helping him out to cross the road. And here one more picture. We see few children are crossing the road. They are also blind and some people are helping them out to cross the road. Have you ever imagined how blind people are living their life? What problems they are facing in their daily life? They can't see anything. For a while, if we close our eyes, we'll see nothing in front of our eyes, just darkness. Only for some time, we can't bear such darkness. So just imagine how blind people are living their life with the blackness in front of their eyes. They can't see the beauty of nature. They can't read. They can't see anything. They can only feel the beauty of nature with the help of their sound and smell. They can feel the environment around them. Yes, so today in this video, the lesson that we are reading is something to deal with the blind people. Okay, so let's see what is it about. So the lesson is A Flash of Light by Nicholas Hosberg. So before we move into the lesson, let us see a few words that we come across the lesson, that we come across the text. Avoid, to keep away from. Cobbled, made up with cobblestones, small round stones used for paving streets. Distinguished, to be aware of the difference between two or more people or things. Donate, to give or present something especially for a good cause. Franc, a French coin worth 100 centimes. Perfect, to make something as good as possible. Represent, to stand for something. Soft-hearted, kind. Sou, a French coin no longer in use, worth 1 of 20th of franc. Trample, to trade heavily on something or somebody so as to cause damage or injury. Now let's start read the lesson A Flash of Light. It was cold day and Valentine Owie walked briskly down the cobbled street. It was getting dark and he was in a neighborhood he was not very familiar with. He was on his way home and was thinking about the warm room and the glowing fire that would greet him on his arrival. A carriage pulled by horses rattled past as the Valentine reached the corner of the street. To avoid being trampled by the horses, he stepped back onto the pavement. Now here in the first paragraph we see that Valentine Owie, he was walking down the street, okay, cobbled street. So he was, the whole day he worked, now he is going back home. So as he is walking on the street, he is thinking about the warm room and glowing fire. He was thinking that the room was glowing with the fire. That means it might be very cold outside. Yes, and as he was walking on the street, a carriage pulled by horses, it came suddenly, and before Valentine could be trampled by the horses, he got back to the pavement. So let's continue reading. Before Valentine could cross the road, he heard a rustling sound behind him. He turned and saw, in the shadows of a wide doorway, a man standing with his hat in his hand. Please, sir, said the man, spare some money for a poor blind beggar. Valentine was a kind, soft-hearted man and had thought a lot about the problems of blind people. He had often wondered how he could be of help to the blind. On hearing this request, he at once removed one of his gloves and putting his hand into his pocket, pulled from it a coin which he put in the blind beggar's hat. So now here we see that as Valentine got got back to the pavement, he heard some rustling sound behind him. When he turned around, he saw a blind beggar standing beside him and requesting him to give a coin. So Valentine was very kind and soft hearted. He thought a lot about the problems of blind people. He always wanted to help blind. So, hearing this blind man's request, he at once removed the gloves. He put his hand in his pocket. He removed one coin from his pocket and gave it to the beggar, this blind beggar. The blind beggar mumbled his thanks and Valentine walked away. He was halfway across the road when he heard the call out. Sir, sir, please, just a moment. Valentine turned once again and returned to face the blind man. So as Valentine was going away, he was going away from this blind man. Soon this blind man called out to Valentine, calling him, Sir, sir, please, just a moment. Yes, as soon as blind man called Valentine, he at once turned around and came near this man, asking for the reason. Surely, sir, said the beggar, who was an honest man, you have made a mistake. You have given me a franc instead of a sou. So, franc is more than a sou. Okay. So, here this beggar, in those days, franc was of very it was of very highly very high price at that time, a lot of money at that time. Valentine was astonished. He was not surprised by man's honesty, but by the fact that he could tell so quickly the difference between a franc and a sou. So Valentine, he was astonished, not because the blind beggar called him and he said that you gave me more money, I think by mistake. The man was an honesty. The man was honest man. So Valentine was not surprised by the man's honesty. He was astonished because he was blind. He can't see anything, but still he made the difference. He found out the difference between a franc and a sou. How did you know that I gave you a franc? Asked Valentine. Oh, replied the beggar, it is enough for me to pass my finger over it. This was like a flash of light in Valentine's head. So when the beggar said that, when I pass my finger on the coin, I can make out what coin is this. So I can easily tell whether it is a franc or a sou. Valentine allowed the beggar to keep a franc, although it was a great deal of money in those days. As he continued his walk, he thought to himself, if the blind can distinguish at the least touch of a piece of money, why should they not distinguish a mark, a letter, or a figure? In short, they should be able to distinguish any sign as long as it is raised. So Valentine thought for a while that if a blind man can make a difference between the money by passing his finger on the piece of money, and he can make out the difference between the coins, why can't he make out the difference symbol, any figure or any letter, as long as they are raised, embossed? Yes. With this idea, Valentine took home a blind boy who he found begging at the church door. So Valentine got an idea to train up a blind boy. Okay, so with this idea, he took one blind boy. He was begging at the church door. The blind boy became his first pupil and learned very quickly how to read from raised signs. With the help of money donated by the public, Valentine Owie was able to start a school for the blind. So, Valentine Owie, he started a school for the blind and he made some symbols and some raised signs so that blind people can read. Yes, some years later, a blind man called Louis Braille. He was born in 1809 and he was alive till 1852. Also a Frenchman, he was also a Frenchman like Valentine Owie, perfected a system of writing especially for the blind. This writing was called Braille. So, the idea that Valentine Owie got, so the same idea, Louis Braille, he was also a blind man, but not the Valentine. Braille was a blind man. He perfected this writing, okay, this embossed kind of writing. He perfected it for the blind to read and write. So, this writing is called Braille. Braille is a special alphabet used by the blind. This alphabet is marked by raised dots on stiff paper, which blind persons can understand by the touch of their fingers. Louis Braille himself was blind and worked in a blind school in Paris. The system that he developed in 1834 was not used much until the time of Braille's death in 1852. So, Braille, the system that Braille has perfected, he developed this system of writing in 1834, but in those days it was not used much. But after Braille's death in 1852, this system was used much by the blind people. Each letter in the Braille alphabet consists of one or more raised dots. In the diagram below, the small dots represent unraised marks, the large dots represent raised marks. So, here we see that in this diagram, so here we see the letter H in English, and in Braille, 3 dots, that green large dots will be embossed, and that small black dots will not be raised. Only those 3 dots will be raised. Here for E, 2 dots we see that they are raised, and for L, 3 dots in a straight line, and for O, 3 dots again but in different positions. From the diagram above, you can see that the letter H consists of 3 raised dots and the letter L consists of 3 raised dots too. So, however, the dots of H are in different pattern to those which make up the letter L. So, they are in a different pattern. Okay. So, there are 6 possible positions for each dot. As we see here, there are 6 positions for the dots to be placed. Yes, by placing the dots in various positions, 63 different patterns or shapes can be made. Okay, so this means that there are patterns for each of 26 letters of the alphabet. In addition to these 26 patterns, there are patterns of special words or words that are used a lot in everyday language. Some of the common words such as and, it, for, the and many other frequently used words have one Braille symbol each. So, here we see that 26 letters. In English language, we have 26 letters, right? So, all these 26 letters have different patterns. Along with these, in addition to these 26 patterns, there are patterns for special words. We frequently use few words like and, it, for, the. So, for these words, Braille has a special symbol for each of these words. So, for example, the word and. If we see and, we have to write 3 letters, right? A, N, D. So, this occurs very frequently in English. To make it easier to read in Braille, it is written like this. Now, we see here, okay, A, N, D, and. So, this pattern here on the top. So, for and, if we in Braille, this one symbol is enough to read it as and. Otherwise, each letter have to be written like this 3. See here we have, this is A, this one is A, N and D. Okay, so we have, so they have to write these 3 letters. So, instead of writing these 3 letters in Braille, so the top one, if they write that, if they make those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots, if they raised in that pattern, then it is and. Books in Braille have to be quite thick. Yes, so books in Braille have to be quite thick. The paper should be thick. This is because raised marks are punched out in rows across each page. The raised marks have to be big enough to be felt by the fingertip, so the paper has to be stiff. Many books are written in Braille. Blind people can be taught how to read Braille, and in this way they too can read and enjoy the works of great authors. There are also machines that help blind people to write in Braille. So, let us see these machines. Yes. So, here we see, I have selected, this is like a typewriter. Yes, but this is used for typing Braille. Okay, and here some other technique. Okay, this also is used to write Braille, and here with some measurements Braille is written. Yes, so these are some devices with this help Braille script can be written. Now, here we see the Braille alphabets from A to Z and also numbers. Okay, these dark dots are raised, and these are raised dots that are in black and dark, and others are not raised. So, how blind people read this Braille? See here, you can see these raised dots. Okay, we cannot understand that how this can be read, but blind people, with the help of their fingertips, they feel that texture, that raised dots, and they can read it. So, they also can enjoy the great authors stories, poems and all. They can also read on themselves with nobody beside them helping them out to read. They only have to learn it. Yes, they only have to learn how to read Braille and how to write it. Yes, so this is how Braille script was. So, this is the idea of Braille, and this is how it has been perfected. So, I hope everyone understood the pain that has been taken by Valentine and Louis Braille to design this script for blind people. So, now even blind people also can read. So, this is somehow helping the blind people to attend their exams also, to read much and gain knowledge. So this is a good thing that even blind people also can read and gain knowledge. Now we all have eyes, we can read. So with this I want to tell you that you must not take light. Yes, you must not take granted. God has given you nice eyesight, right? So take care of your eyes. Eat carrot daily so that you can get vitamin A and your eyesight can be um, it can eating lot of carrot, it will help you to see nicely. Yes, and don't watch TV and mobiles a lot, that will affect your eyesight. So be careful, boys. God has given you nice gift of seeing. So thank God for that, and also pray for the blind people to help them out in their problems. Yes, to help them out in their problems. Thank you, children. Now I want all of you to read the lesson once more and understand the understand what is there in that. Thank you.